Hello, I've had a request to show how I did the watercolour painting using the Tim Holtz Distress Inks. So I thought I would show you in a video. It's really easy to do. It's the watercolour that I did with the leaves on here. So all you need to do, you stamp your image with StazOn. Some people use Memento, but I don't think that it's as good as the StazOn because StazOn doesn't bleed at all when it gets wet. I've used the Hero Arts Hanging Ornament stamp, and I'm using watercolour paper this time, but I didn't use watercolour paper for my stamps, and as you can, for my tags I mean, and as you can see here, it didn't bleed at all. I just was careful and dabbed off any excess liquid that there was. So you could use plain, good quality cardstock. So all you need to do is either have your craft mat, or I use my big acrylic block, which is really clean, as you can see. And what I like to do is I just get my distress ink and I just dab a little corner on like that. You can do a couple at a time if you want to, or one at a time, whatever you like. I'm using Dusty Concord, Mustard Seed, Worn Lipstick and Spiced Marmalade. You don't need a lot of ink because you're wetting it, and then you just get some kind of spritzer. It doesn't really matter if it's a label brand or not, but these ones, this is from the Twinkling H2Os, and it's nice and big, but the bigger size of the Ranger one would work really well. So then all you need to do is you just add water, and as you probably know by now, distress inks work really beautifully with water. I like to really get my brush soaked in the colour, and then you just paint. It's exactly like normal painting. And the colour's actually surprisingly vibrant. It's not, it doesn't have to be really muted. You can make it muted. If you wanted it to be really dull, I would just only have one colour on your acrylic block and then add a lot more water. So then you just colour, and as you can see, I haven't gone back and re-dabbed my paintbrush in the ink or anything, and it's kept a lot of colour, and it's managed to colour all of this really quickly. And then in between colours, all you want to do is get a rag or whatever you use to wipe off your stamps and things. I've got a really dirty old rag, and I just spritz it with the water again to clean it, and then you'll have the nice clean brush again. I try to use as fine a point brush as I can. I find it's a bit better, but if you're doing a great big background or something, you would obviously want to use a bigger brush. And then you just dip it in the colour again and paint. It's really simple. It's a great way to colour in a lot of images really fast. So great for mass production and things like that, which is what we all want at Christmas time. Or even for gift giving, if you give somebody a gift of, a set of cards. But as you can see, the colour is still quite strong. But like I said, if you wanted it to be a lot more muted, you would just use more water. And you can always come back and add more colour if you decide, once it's dry, if you decide that you want it to be darker. And if you want it to be lighter, you can just sort of wet your paintbrush and go over the colour on your image, and then the water will kind of soften it a bit, but generally I just leave it because it dries a little bit softer than you can see here. So I don't really think it needs it. So, but you can see here how fast I've managed to fill up this whole image. Some people suggest that when you're doing watercolouring, you spritz your piece of paper like this, the thing that you've got your stamp on, a tiny bit on the other side, or even on the face side, like this side, before you colour your image in, because if the paper is already a tiny bit wet, it soaks the paint in better, which it gives sort of more of it gives a better effect. I don't usually bother too much unless the image is a bit more artsy. These ones are quite cute, so I don't think it matters if it's still pretty vibrant. But the pre-spraying the page tends to allow the paper to sort of hold the paint better, because it's already wet. and the colours appear more vibrant because the paint doesn't soak in quite so much. But you can see here how fast, just in a couple of minutes. So this is all I did for my tags. I just grabbed 2 colours and I quickly painted over the leaves in green, and then I did the red stars really fast. If you're ever in a really huge rush, one way you can do it is just to have a wet paintbrush and then run your paintbrush along this part of the ink pad, this little bit, on the edge, so then you don't get water on top, but you can still get the ink colour off your Tim Holtz ink pad. So that's about it. It's really simple. I really like it as a way of colouring in a lot of things really fast, and I think it's an easy way to colour. When it's watercolour, you don't have to worry too much about being massively careful, and it's a bit more arty, I think, because you're not being so precious about it. As you can see here, I'm really just rushing over the image, and because it's watercolour, it looks right. It doesn't look bad because you've rushed. It actually just sort of looks a bit more how it should look. So anyway, I'll just quickly finish this up, and then that's it really. You can see how fast it how fast it colours. It's a really fun technique, and I really like the way it works. I think it does a great job, and you can see now the colours are starting to get a little bit plain, and what you can do if you want to make them a bit softer is just spritz again, and then they'll be softer. So here's my purple, and see, because I've mixed it in with the orange, I've got a new colour, and you can even bring in a little of the yellow. Mix your colours in a bit. Let's add a bit of red to that to make it a bit of a nicer colour. It's not sitting quite right. That's a bit better. And that's it. So there you go. That whole image is done already, and that only took me a couple of minutes. So I hope that answered your questions. Another way you can do it in the exact same thing is, instead of using plain water, is to use pearlized water. Like adding a little bit of Perfect Pearls into your water bottle, shaking it up really well, and then using that to spritz your inks on your acrylic block, and you'll get a really pretty shine on here. So thanks for watching.